In the town of Canmore, Alberta, a new council term is underway, bringing together a mix of fresh faces and returning members around the council table. Now, on October 20th, residents headed to the polls, electing a blend of new councillors and familiar voices, all there ready to shape their community's future. Among them is Councillor Wade Graham, re-elected by the citizens of Canmore to continue serving on council. Now he joins his colleagues and mayor in leading the town forward. Now we caught up with Councillor Graham last week to talk about leadership, priorities, and the term ahead, and also what lies ahead for him as a councillor. This is Municipal Affairs. From the smallest village to the largest city, across every region of the province, Alberta Municipalities represents the communities where over 85% of Albertans live. AB Munis provides a united voice for 265 of Alberta's 330 municipalities, including summer villages, towns, cities, and specialized municipalities. As Alberta's largest municipal group, AB Munis listens to municipal leaders and advocates for solutions to their common issues. Additionally, AB Munis supports local governments by providing services specially designed to meet their operational needs. And they bring their members together regularly so they can share ideas and information so that their communities can thrive. Check out Alberta Municipalities at abmunis.ca and follow them on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, now called X. Councillor, thank you so much for sitting down with me and talking about yourself, talking about the most recent election, and also talking about the path forward for the town of Canmore. First off, congratulations on your re-election. How does it feel to be back for another term in office?
Feels really, really good. Really validating this time around. And I'm not a guy that needs validation, but this one felt extra good.
Why is that?
You know, our last term had a lot of tough issues to deal with. And we dealt with them as best we could and what we thought was in the community's best interest. And there was some groups that were, vocally opposed to the solutions that we were putting forward. And the community in the end re-elected us to keep doing the work that we've been doing. That feels good.
Well, it feels good. What did you hear during the campaign? Because most of the times whenever I speak to newly elected, re-elected councillors or mayors, is what I heard during the campaign is the sort of the mandate of what I will be doing during this term of office. So when you were door knocking, when you were out talking to people, what were the common themes that you were hearing from people?
It was the, being a community and being a wholesome, fulsome community that thrives at every level with everybody. And a lot of that had to do with affordability, right? Affordability is a huge issue here in Canmore. It's an issue across the country, other countries, internationally, it's an issue, but here in Canmore, it's at a whole nother level, right? The cost of housing here is incredible. The cost of, day-to-day life is a hardship for a lot of people. And wages here and tourism economies don't necessarily support that those costs. So, how do you continue to be a wholesome, fulsome community when just making a rent is really hard for the, I would say, average person? So, yeah.
So what do you see as your role? Because some of those issues that you just mentioned are not traditionally in the municipal jurisdiction, or I'm going to quote our Minister of Municipal Affairs, they're not in your lane, so you should stick within your lane, as you can imagine what we're going to be talking about in a few seconds here. But what do you see as your role as councillor in trying to address those issues that traditionally don't fall within the municipal quote unquote lane?
Yeah, there's a lot of talk of that. And you and I have talked about this in the past, Christopher. Housing, the town of Canmore has a housing corporation that builds non-market housing. We have about 300 units of ownership and rental that we have funded on our own over the past 20 years. And in the past 4 years, we added, another, I think 366 units will be coming online in the next little while. So in 4 years, we doubled the inventory over the past 20 years. That was significant. And we did that in large part without the province. They did help us out with some land, and I appreciate that. But, these projects are huge capital projects. And so, we did go to municipal affairs and talk about our livability tax, which is a tax that asks second homeowners that don't have anybody living in their home to pay a levy to fund affordable housing in our community.
So before you go jump into that, because I want to clarify this for those who might not know where we're coming from here.
Sure.
In the mandate letter that the premier gave the Minister of Municipal Affairs, it sort of mandated the minister to look at these type of taxes to see if they're viable or see if they're even needed for municipalities, or if municipalities are overreaching in their roles around these type of taxes. So just that's where we're coming from on this conversation. And this is something that Canmore has been talking for, not just in the last 3 months. It's been ongoing for about a year and a half now, I believe.
Oh, I think this conversation is probably 20 years.
but it's been mostly on the books over the last year and a half, right?
Yeah,
it's really picked up steam then.
Yeah. So, when I was first elected, I got one of my main campaign promises was to look at a vacancy tax. 26% of our homes, 1 in 4 homes here in Canmore sits vacant the vast majority of the year. Meanwhile, we have basically a 0% vacancy on rental property. So we had an idea, a subclass structure that we looked at through the MGA, and we went to the municipal affairs and we asked municipal affairs if they thought that this was a structure that was within our lane, within our jurisdiction, within our rights to do as a municipality. And we got a letter back from municipal affairs saying, yes, that is within your purview. Have fun. So we proceeded and we put that task board together. We built that structure. We passed it. It went to court, and it was validated by the court that we do have purview to do this. Obviously, that didn't sit well with some people, some well-connected people. And the premier wrote a letter to the now municipal affairs minister and told him to have a look at this. And Canmore and myself have always said that if there are other funding models that we can look at to address our housing needs here in Canmore, we're open to those things for sure. But anybody who talks about resort municipality status, a tax structure that would allow us to maybe tax hotel rooms or restaurant bills or something to that effect has been denied by the province for a long, long time. 20 years that's been asked for, and 20 years it's been denied. So at what point in time do you feel like a little kid asking, can I have more candy, please? Can I have more candy, please? And your mom keeps saying no. And at some point in time, you're just an annoying child. So, do something differently. So we did something differently.
Can I ask the $1 million question that I think a lot of people are asking, because this was a contentious issue during this campaign. I will not blow any smoke anywhere, because when I was looking at the Canmore pages on Facebook, on social media, it always was the thing that people were talking about. Let alone very vocal minority that was talking about it, but it was the issue that was discussed.
Absolutely.
The majority of the council members who were in the last term are back. There are a few new faces with
Hmm.
resignations, but there are a few new faces. You've
Yeah.
met once since the election, I believe, because you've had your organizational meeting where you were sworn in and you were
Yeah.
basically getting your feet wet.
Hmm.
Do you get a sense from, and I know you're just one councillor and you're not the mayor and you're speaking on behalf of yourself, but do you get a sense that this topic is going to be dominating the first year of your term?
Absolutely.
Is
Yeah.
that good for the community?
I think it's a conversation that we need to have, right? We need to figure out what the province really wants and how we can all move forward. We need to, this will be the first year that we've implemented this tax and that it is paid and that those funds do go towards housing. There is an appeal by that group that will be heard in December, and we'll see how that all plays out. So yeah, I'm very willing to have this conversation in council chambers, in Edmonton, and in the community. We'll continue.
Does the community want it? Because I can imagine when you're knocking on doors during a campaign, and if housing is the top priority, which you are not the first, and you will probably not be the last Canmore councillor who has ever said that on the show, that housing is a priority. Even from ex-residents who I know who lived in Canmore, who now live in Calgary, said I had to move to Calgary because I could not find a place to live for long term that was financially reasonable, so I had to move to another location.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask the $1 million question, but I know you're not going to be able to answer it because it's a multi-pronged approach. But what is the solution to our housing crisis in Canmore over the next 4 years? Because I don't want to have this conversation with you in 4 years' time, and we're still having this conversation about
No,
no
me neither.
vacancies. So, what do
No,
you need to
me
do in
neither.
this term?
If there were any other tools for us to use, we would have used them, right? So this in my mind at this point in time with the things that are legally structured, this is the solution, unfortunately. Um, so yeah, I don't want to be having this conversation in another 4 years. And I think, this tax structure is not a new concept. Many other jurisdictions outside of Alberta use it. And when things are new, they're challenging, right? I get that. I understand that. And I think once it's implemented and once we see how it's working, is it incentivizing some of those homes to come back to the market in some sort of way? You have to house one person in one part of your property for 6 months to avoid this tax. I don't think that's too much to ask, to be blatantly, forthright.
It doesn't seem
Uh,
unreasonable to me.
it doesn't seem unreasonable to me, right? Um,
When we look at what the future holds for Canmore, if we talk about housing as one of the top priorities that you will have to tackle this term to ensure that we aren't talking about this in 4 years' time, does that leave little room for all the other issues that the community might be facing? Aging infrastructure, rural health, the tourism economy that you do have, economic diversification, or does the housing challenge have to work in tandem with all those other pieces that the Canmore is going through right now?
yeah, we never get to um, only deal with one issue at one time. Governments don't work that way. Businesses don't work that way. People don't work that way. Will housing dominate the conversation? Yeah, a lot of it. Is it the only thing we need to address? No, absolutely not. And we will address other meaningful issues that are important to our economy or our community at the same time. Um,
So,
but
what's
every
your
government,
priority?
uh, housing is my priority.
Is it?
Affordability is my priority, but also um, environmental stewardship is incredibly important to me. Uh, the tourism economy and how that interplays with um, environmental stewardship, with our local economy, with our social fabric is important to me. Um, yeah, you don't get to come here and be a one-trick pony.
So I want to just pick up on something. You talk about affordability a lot so far in this conversation, and the very
Yeah.
first big piece of legislation that you will have to pass in this term is your 2026 operating and capital budget. I can imagine it was already started in the last term.
Yep.
Conversations were already taking place,
Mhm.
but this new council will have to pass it. What do you see as your role and the role of the municipality in ensuring that affordability takes top priority when looking at the growth and the challenges that Canmore is facing? Because you can't spend your way out of challenges, but you can't not spend to not address the challenges. So, how do
Yeah.
you see your role, and how do you see the role of council in ensuring those are sort of working in simpatico?
Yeah. So I remember my first budget as a new counselor, and it is an overwhelming process. it's it's a big one, right? You're a deer in the headlights. You just finished a campaign. The first thing you get thrown into is finance committee, and man, that feels almost cruel, to be honest with you. Luckily for us, this is an amending budget. We basically, it's already been approved. There'll be some minor changes, I would think. So it's an
Is
easier.
Canmore's on a 4 year cycle budget, right?
We basically issue a
Oh,
2 year
2 year.
budget cycle. Yeah. So this is the second year of that budget cycle. So, a lot of it's already in place. It's not as daunting as it could be when we were on a 1 year budget cycle during the COVID years. Those were hard for sure. But I think we've basically got 2 new council members. They're both smart, intelligent folks. I appreciate both of the perspectives that they're bringing to the table. Um, and it'll still be a lot for them to get up to speed on some of those things.
So,
We'll stick to where we're at for the most part there.
we're looking at the future and what the path forward is for the town of Canmore. We look at challenges, we look at the housing crisis and I say crisis because I think it is on the verge of being a crisis because you need more housing. And if you don't have housing, then people are going to be left homeless and your community is not going to grow. Do you have hope
Yeah.
for the future of Canmore at the end of the day, or are we going to be pessimistic in the next 4 years and say, okay, it may be good, but who knows?
It's really funny that you should bring that question up. I was at a book talk last night by a gentleman by the name of Kevin Buntigam, who used to be a local here in town, and he was a park superintendent for a while, and he's moved off to kind of near Waterton and writes a lot of books. And two of the questions last night were, "Do you have hope for the future?" And "Do you have hope for the future of Canmore?" And there is a lot of pessimism and cynicism in our community about who we were, um, and who we, in some ways, are going to be forced to become. Um,
That doesn't sound good, to be
no,
honest.
I
Because and I'm gonna just jump in here because I just want to make sure that I'm hearing you right. Forced to become makes me think that Canmore is in a dire place right now, and you're at a crossroads in your path of what Canmore can be and what Canmore will be if nothing changes.
Yeah, I think our community really struggled with uh, the, and I hate to bring up old wounds here. Our community struggled with the Three Sisters development, and the province forcing us to approve that. That was a really difficult one for myself personally, and for the community. But it has been approved. It has been mandated that we will adopt those ASPs and that development the way it was presented. Um, so, as a counselor now, it's easy to be critical from the cheap seats, and it's easy to be pessimistic. Um, and there's a lot of challenges, and I don't ever want to minimize those. we will be a different town. You know, we're going to go from 16,000 people to 35,000 people. That's a different place than we currently are. And I think there's a lot of fear in that. There's a lot of trepidation. There's a lot of anger by some people.
But that
Um,
that comes at a big expense, though. By almost doubling the population of your community, however long it does take, comes at an expense to the current rate payers right now. Infrastructure, I can imagine, is not built or even equipped to handle a 35,000 population in Canmore. The water treatment facility plants, the roads, the highway, the sewers, the schools, the parks, all will need to be upgraded. All will need to be changed to address that growing population.
yeah.
Now, growth in population, I guess, can be good, but it needs to be sustainable. Can you sustain 35,000 residents if they all decided we're going to build in the next 4 years to double our community size?
Well, you know, the reality is we're not doing it in the next 4 years. That's for sure. But you know, one of the difficult conversations we had last term was offsite levies, and you know, growth should pay for growth, and development should pay for those sorts of things. And those things are not cheap. You know, there's a new fire hall that needs to get built. There's a new police station that needs to get built. There's people want another hockey rink, and yeah, we need water treatment plants and all those things. And if we're going to do that, then that growth needs to pay for that. So one of the hard things we dealt with last term was offsite levies, and the development community didn't like it and took us to court. And the court said, you got to go back and look at a couple things, which is fine. We'll go back and look at a couple things, and then we'll see where that conversation goes. But yeah, that's another big funding issue that needs to be addressed. So, this council has no uh,
Do you feel like you're
easy.
stuck between a rock and a hard place right now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Not
Right.
just if you, not just as council, but even just as the community, because you're
Yeah.
trying to make the community better, and you have the province and court systems breathing down your neck saying, "No, you can't do this. You have to do it different ways."
Yeah. It's hard. I've got a community that I care a lot about that some of them want it one way and some of them want it the other way. And then there's the reality of the systems in place that dictate how we do things. And then playing within that so that we do have hope for the future. And I do have hope for the future. I'm an optimist, and I think with the right people at the table and the right conversations, and a lot of compromise and a lot of understanding, that there is a lot of hope for the future of this valley, and the place that we cherish and the place that we want to be, and all those sorts of things. um I am hopeful. Is there going to have to be a lot of hard conversations? Yeah, there there is. And we have to have a council that's willing to do that, and a community that's willing to do that, and industry that's willing to do that. But I think one of the things I've been really proud of is my ability to have those hard conversations with a lot of people and bring people to the table, and do what's best for all of us as best as I can. And I know that everybody sitting at that table on council has that in mind too. We might differ on how to do that sometimes, but we want what's best for this place, and we'll do what we can to make that happen.
So, what do you want to see yourself be in 4 years' time? So, we look at the town, but as a councillor, how do you see yourself evolving over the next 4 years to better represent your community? Or do you think you're perfect the way you are right now? Because Wade, you
No.
and I know each other quite well. And I would say you are a great municipal leader. You wear your heart on your sleeve and you are always passionate about your community. Is there a place that you want to see yourself grow into this role?
Chris, you know, that that place from being an advocate or an activist or a citizen to becoming a counselor is a big change. And I had the fortunate um, to be surrounded by council members that helped me grow into to be the the councillor that I am today. I am not even close to perfect, but I'm really proud of the growth that I've had over the past 4 years as a person, as a citizen, as a councillor, as a politician. Um, a lot of people come to me and talk about, their trepidation about me, that they first had with me being in a council seat. Man, there was a lot of reason for that, right? I was throwing elbows fairly regularly, and now I have to shake hands uh, and hear all the perspectives and bring all those to the table. So, I've been able to build those relationships with my administration, my fellow council members, uh, people at the province, people at IB Munis, people in Ottawa. And it takes all of those voices to solve the big problems that we have, and nobody gets to do it on their own. So I look forward to continuing to grow as a person, as a politician, and as somebody that just walks on the street and enjoys this place. So I enjoy having our conversations too, Chris. I really appreciate it.
Well, you and I will be having more conversations as this term unfolds, because we are across the province talking to as many municipal leaders as we can, and we have great stories that we want to tell, and we'll be following the housing story that is going on in Canmore very closely over the next 4 years, and we'll be calling on you whenever we see you at either AB Munis or whenever we are out at in Canmore itself. We may be calling on you for a quick interview there. So, Counselor, thank you so much for sitting down with me and taking time out of your busy schedule. Good luck in the next 4 years, and I'm looking forward to our continued conversations.
Chris, I really love that you do these series. There's not a lot of municipal political nerds, and you are one of them. And good on you. Your understanding of how things work and the positions that we're in is appreciated. I look forward to chat with you as always.
Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of Municipal Affairs. Now, we hope you've enjoyed today's conversation and gained some valuable insights into the world of Alberta municipal politics when it comes to this upcoming municipal term. Now, your support means the world to us. So if you can, share this episode with your friends, your family, and yes, even your community, and help keep the conversation going. Also, if you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform, or if you're watching this on YouTube, hit the subscribe button there today. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and we will be back with a brand new episode of Municipal Affairs shortly. Till then, everyone.